Right?
Perfect.
Perfect. So it is now, it is live. So Patricio, now I can officially thank you for being here and taking out time to do
Thanks to
this.
you.
And it was wonderful talking to you last time
No.
at Mediated Experiences, and I'm looking forward to the lecture. So if you want to just introduce yourself a little bit and then take it forward from there. I'm on mute after this. It's your show.
Well, thank you. Thanks again for the great opportunity that it gave us to all the mediators to express our ideas and our thinking about mediation. And of course, well, a little introduction. I am a lawyer here in my country. I work as a mediator during more than 10 years, eventually 15 years, and also I'm mostly devoted to conflict resolution industry. Also, I'm a lawyer as a litigator, and also have some duties as a public servant, which is in some degree related with human rights and conflict solving. So that is my background. But here I want to make a presentation, yeah, in this lecture series that you, Vikram, invite us so generously and give you the opportunity to have this worldwide audience. So today I will talk about an issue that is, let me share a screen with you. Yeah, I will share the screen. Yeah. I'm starting to, yeah. Nah, yeah, I'm starting to sharing. Yes, I'm sharing the screen. Can you see it? You can, sorry, you can see it?
Yep, we can. Just have Perfect. To go into presentation mode, that's all.
Okay, I'm going to full screen. Yes. Well, the idea of this presentation, it's to try to give an answer about an issue that is iterative in all the conversations. This question about the mediator's role in mediation. So what is the role of mediators and why mediators are not paid? This is a key question that is very iterative in many videos of many of your guests in this series, and particularly even in other like expertises and other series that you are sharing. So here, the important issue, it's one of the complaints that we can see that is iterative with most of the mediators. For example, that mediators are badly paid or not paid at all. This is something that it's very iterative. Yes, in many countries, it is one of the main complaints. Mediators want to be recognized, but it's also a measure to earn your income. Yeah. Some people. So this is a question, one of the problems. The other one is lack of social prestige of recognition. Here is another aspect, and I want to stop a little bit in this issue about the lack of social prestige. It's important role, or it's in a complex society, mediators comply with a role that is to facilitate the transactions, yeah, in an economic point of view, but usually happens that in many countries, mediators are seen as a little brother compared with other professionals of the legal system. In general, I'm speaking with lawyers, yeah? So, and it seems like something that is not in the same degree of importance with compared with lawyers and other professionals, or eventually expert witness, for example. But considering that mediators give a service, a valuable service for the society, yeah? Other complaint, another issue that have been described consistently during the different mediators that come and express their ideas to your conversations is this is not a 100% time profession. So it's a profession, but eventually not all the time you are devoted to the mediator. So sometimes you work like a mediator and other time you do other things, but it's not 100% of the time of your life or your labor life, at least, devoted to the mediator. So it's another complaint. And other complaint and challenge with the lawyers, because sometimes happens, and at least in Chile, it happens a little bit that, for example, mediators are required or they're needed because what lawyers want for mediator is a certificate that demonstrates that the mediation is frustrated. Therefore, they have the power to go to the court. So you have the key to open the door to the court. Yeah. And this is an aspect where you can find eventually problems or conflicts between lawyers and mediators. And sometimes, and generally happens, that lawyers tend to be extremely intrusive in areas where mediators are more bound to give protagonism to the parties more than lawyers. As mentioned before in the previous conversation that we had, you know, there have been the opportunity to work in mediation with lawyers and without lawyers, and both are completely different. Because in a mediation with lawyers, at least in Chile, my experience demonstrate that is lesser degree or lesser average of agreements compared with mediations performed solely by the parties without help or assistance of lawyers. So this is an issue. There is not a fight, and sometimes happen a fight, but generally speaking, there is an issue there, and these are some of the complaints. But now we're trying to go about the approaches, yeah, because we must understand the approaches about mediation, yeah, about what is the role of the mediators and how mediators we compare with an idealistic point of view and a realistic point of view. Because here in the upper side we have the idealistic approach, and we said that mediators were extremely important for society, or for example, mediators we deserve the same treatment than lawyers. This is ideas, these are statements that represent this approach. This is not, I'm not talking in a particular person, I'm talking about the ideas. Mediators are altruistic and sensible, usually, yeah. There is a market for mediation. There's another issue there. Mediator must be paid for the parties, and mediators perform the art of the agreement. There's some ideas or statements that personally I set up in this idealistic approach. But here we have the other, which is a more realistic approach. And in this realistic approach, we must understand that mediators are professional like many others. Profession, the mediation and mediator in general, those are their own statute. There are no lawyers, there are different statute, and this must be understood, yeah? This is not worse, it's not better, it's different, yeah? But it's their own statute. Mediator has the same quality and effect that I'm a human being? Yes, it happens, because sometimes it's incredible that I have the experience to see mediators fighting for mediations, or mediators that are less comprehensive people and more manipulative people that you can believe. It happens, but it's real, yeah? It happens. Mediation, it's not a market. Mediation, what is a professional service, and that must be regulated. Yeah, this is a key point to understand. It's a profession. You are not, we cannot have this view like a market. In next slides, I will talk particularly about economic aspects, yeah? But it's important to understand that mediation is a profession, and this is a key point to be regulated, because it regulates persons more than the activity itself. As a consequence activity, it becomes regulated, yeah? Other aspect, what matters about the money, it's to receive a decent funding, yeah, for the service. It doesn't matter if it's public and private or a mix of both, yeah? But that's important, to receive a decent funding. For me, or for most of my opinion, what is important is to be that mediators receive payment, a good payment, a decent payment. It doesn't matter if it comes from the parties or for the private or a mixture. It doesn't matter how, but important is that happens, yeah? And finally, mediators do not perform an art. In some degrees an art. I think that it's more complex eventually in other series we can talk about, but in general, mediators deal with complex problems where are legally bound. They're very complicated issues. So that's the issue that mediators must understand and must tell. This is the deal, this is the job, the daily job that they do, yeah? So if you have any question, Vikram, or any comment? No?
I have a comment, but I'll I should take it up later, otherwise I'll spoil your flow.
Oh, perfect. Okay, it's very short. It's very. I will follow. I call it with the flow. Yeah,
No,
and then
yeah.
all the comments. I know that it's a little bit polemic or critic this presentation, but that's the idea. Not something go a little bit beyond. Yeah.
No, I tell you why, Patricia. My only comment right now is because the last conversation I had on Saturday with Orit, she's from Israel, and in that conversation, we kind of came up to, no, I was having someone else. Basically, that is it a profession or is it a way of life? So we'll discuss this at a later stage after you finish. It's just a thought.
Yeah,
it's just a thought.
perfect.
It was just a discussion. We'll discuss it later.
Yeah, good. Well, other issue, and here is the jam experience. Here's something that helps the jam experience of the banks and jams. There is a wrong assumption that we understand that the world is like the United States, and that's not in that way. Yeah, we must not understand. This is a wrong assumption. United States, not the world, it's a particular country. And here is it, the key explanation. What is? This is the ideal setting. Oh, thank you so much, mediator, for your valuable help. That's a party says to the mediator, and the mediator kindly received the money, saying, you're welcome. It was a pleasure to provide you useful service. Do not hesitate to call me again when a problem arises. This is the ideal setting that all we try to obtain in our countries, and something that happened in jams. We don't see it. We don't see when it's paid. We know that it is well paid. It happens, yeah? But this is an ideal setting that happens in the United States. But the problem is that the world is not the United States. It's not the United States, yeah? And what happened, this is a hard and cold reality, what says, okay, thank you, but I cannot afford to pay the service, and here's the typical complaint of the mediator, what is very reasonable. They have skills, we can some time, effort, and you should mention, and it's not paid at all. This is the reality of most of the countries, yeah? And most of the mediations, yeah? And this is very sad, but the idea is to understand why this can happen, yeah? And here, there is a possible explanation about why the United States has been receiving this development in the United States. First of all, it's a highly sophisticated and diversified economy. So it's an economy with many sectors. They're cutting edge in many areas. Also, the service sector is very predominant. So it's important that the conflicts are not last so many times, because the idea is the productivity and the old economy, it's moving constantly. This is the third party of the third issue here is a society of culture of payment for service. This is a key point. It's a cultural matter. It's not an economic matter itself, but as a strong influence, because in the United States, at least, there is a culture of payment, yeah? Because there is not a welfare state, well-development, or comparatively development like other countries like in Europe, or as something completely different than in Latin America. Other aspect is the high cost of litigation. To go to court, it's expensive, yeah? And also related with that, lawyers are paid per hour. So if you mix high cost of litigation and lawyers paid per hour, it's impossible to go to the court. So you must accept in concrete terms that you must try seriously alternative to courts. There's another issue, which is a culture based in pragmatism. And what is the thing that Americans prefer? To save time and money, which is the same in this moment. So this is a very important, the cultural aspect. Other aspect important is a country with a high level of GDP, which is an economic important aspect to be considered, which is structural, but at last has an impact in the parties that go to mediation or not, yeah? And if paid for the service. And a high level of productivity and low unemployment. There's also economic factors to consider, yeah? So if we follow, here, there is an aspect which is the reason that made this country. Here is the flag of many countries. I made a research about particularly these countries of the Scandinavia, yeah, and there's other Europeans. There are not other countries, but why selected these countries? Because these countries eventually has more suitable to that mediation. It becomes spread and established. And there is considering the structural reasons. Which are the structural reasons that I understand here? Because these countries has advanced economies, yeah, very integrated and very focused on international trade. Also, the society, the persons, has an important valuation of the work of others. It's important that the value that you do for everything, from no matter if you are the person that it's in charge of the waste management or you're a mediator, the work, it's a value and it must be respected. Yeah, this is something, a cultural matter. There is a difference that there are public goods widely provided, particularly in Scandinavian countries. There is a culture that you must pay for some services if you can. Yeah, so it's a very there's a consciousness about that. Other respect is that litigation goes against social collaboration, because the cultures of this country, particularly the Scandinavians, particularly these countries, they're setting the mindset of collaboration between the parties and the social actors in general. Yeah, and here we started with the more economic aspect, which is a high level of GDP that make people make income available. That's it, is people with money in their pockets. And people with money in their pockets may pay for services like mediation, for example, yeah, or for mediation. Yeah. The other aspect is wages are high and allow people to save money. This is another economical aspect, because if your country has this low wages, it's impossible that you can pay for all the services. Yeah. The labor markets are sound and count with many enterprises. Therefore, you can eventually, if you get an employment, you get another employee in a company that pay you as good as your previous employer. Yeah. The low unemployment with social security services, there is a protection for employment. And other aspect what is important nowadays is a low inflation, would allow you to conserve the power, the purchase power of your money. Yeah, it's important. Yeah, of this economic and social aspect, yeah, to consider. So here is another aspect where we determine why these people do not pay for mediation. Yeah, and there is some procedural explanation. Yeah, the procedural explanation, it's very simplified, and I do some research about this issue. But here is the alternative: you go to the courts or you go to the mediation. Here is in the countries where there's no judicial fees for go to the courts. Yeah, so for example, in Chile, the justice is free. You not pay for use the infrastructure of the judicial brand. Yeah, there's large number of lawyers. It's highly available public aid, or it's relatively easy to achieve some legal aid, but it's for free. Other aspect is the preeminence given to effective judicial protection more than access to justice. If the access to justice is preeminent compared with effective judicial protection, it's more probable that you eventually become engaged in mediation or other ADR systems. Yeah. Lack of punitive damages. I think that's important, because the punitive damages is a risk to go to the court. It's an eventual risk, even more important to lose the case. Yeah. It's an additional cost that you pay. And other aspect that's important is the lack of punishment of frivolous litigation, because many litigation in some cases is frivolous because it's not moved for the interest of the party, it's moved for the interest of the lawyer. Yeah. In the side of mediation, there's not compulsory previous mediation. This is an issue here. Also, it's difficult the enforceability of the agreements. It is a key point. If the agreement of the enforceability of the agreements, it's an issue that allow you that mediation is spread out and give you more security about the final result of the agreement that you reach. Yeah, and lack of a roster of mediators. So any person can be mediator. It's not rostered. There's no some basic requirements to be mediator or to be considered as one mediator. Yeah. Here is a sociological explanation that's also, it has mentioned, and this is a theory that explains why it happened. This is Niels Christie, who's a sociologist and criminologist, and Niels Christie said something that you mentioned before, and you have discussed it extensively with your guest, which is the conflict as a property. And who are the owners of the conflict is the people, is the parties, It's not the state. And what happens is that the state take control of the conflict and you completely aside. And that's the key problem. As I mentioned, and as an important information, the ideas of Neil Christie had an influence in Scandinavia about to spread mediation, but particularly to the implementation of restorative justice or mediation in the criminal area. So that's the reason where mediation is becoming usually extensively in the United States and other countries in criminal matters. Not in all, but in most criminal areas, because it gives protagonism to the victims, which is the owner of the conflict. It's very interesting theory, yeah? Here is the structural explanation, lack of incentive, why people do not pay mediation. If you are in a simple and old-fashioned economy, it's difficult. As I say, without culture of payment, people is not bound to eventually pay for mediation. A population accustomed to receive public goods for free, yeah? If it's too extensive or too people has not the culture for pay for goods, yeah, particularly considering that an important side of the population cannot afford it, yeah. It's not because people is bad. I will explain later. There's low or no cost for litigate, as mentioned before. Low levels of GDP because people can. It's not enough money, yeah, to make this kind of investment of payments. The low productivity is an issue, and why I understand with low productivity, because low productivity implies low wage. If you have low wage, you are not income enough to pay or to assume or afford the payment necessary for your subsistence. A highly informal labor market, which imply that in your country you are not protection, or the payment it's irregular or it's not well regulated. Other aspect is high unemployment, because this is another linkage with the labor market, because you cannot access to make an income monthly that you can eventually or have the possibility to make a programmation or to make a budget for your needs and eventually save, and high inflation. Yeah. So this is the worst scenario to people that want to offer service of mediator. And here's an economic explanation. Yeah. This economic explanation, it's a kind of a little bit complex, but it's important. First of all, we have Friedrich von Wieser, and this person takes something quite important, is the cost of opportunity. So what is the rationale behind? People prefer to allot resources to do goods that are more required. So I will back to the next. In this scenario, if you cannot even assume your basic needs, it's quite improbable that you can devote or resources for pay mediation, because it's something that is the cost of opportunity is in your subsistence more than conflict solving. Yeah. So that's an issue. The cost of this cost of opportunity, it's an important aspect to consider. And the other one is Ronald Coase. And I will quote, because Ronald Coase says that it makes investigation about many aspects about economic analysis of law. And he said that it's easy for potential beneficiaries to find each other's and organize pooling the resource based upon the goods value of each of them, that public goods could be produced without the government actions. This phrase of Ronald Coase demonstrates that it's difficult to put all the people that is demanding mediation to put together in order to replace the action of the state. That's the reason, because public policy is important. Yeah, it's difficult. That's the reason that reaffirmed in some degree that it's not a market for mediation. It's not a market, and this is more a regulated sector that must be understood in order to create a profession, and then you can link to the procedural law or to the procedure or the general judicial system. Yeah, you cannot say mediation like a market. If we saw like a market, maybe in my point of view, we are committing an error. Yeah, or at least a wrongful assumption. Yeah. So this is the end, because here is what we can conclude about all this issue. First of all, people are not intrinsically egoist or abusive with mediators. Not all the time. Yeah, it happens. There are people that ego is an abusive, but it's a minority. It's not a majority. Yeah. Other aspect to it, it's important to consider is the economic situation. It's paramount. Yeah, this an issue that usually we cannot take in consideration, that it's important to understand where I'm located, how is the economic situation, and how this economic situation has an influence in my practice as mediator, and how mediation eventually it's influenced by this economic outlook. Other thing, this other rationale is it's impossible to think that a person will pay for mediation if cannot pay their basic needs. It's an issue of the cost of opportunity. So if country, it's possible to have more people gaining more money in formal ways, it's more probable that people eventually pay, or in some case pays for mediation, because it's a service that is valuable. There is another aspect, it's a culture. The culture is a strong influence as an incentive for pay, because it's even more important. You can have all the a very strong economy, but if you have not a culture that values the work of the other person that you do as a third party, if it's not valuable, it's not respected, it's highly improbable that you receive a payment. If there's no culture for pay for service, yeah, if you do a service for another people and it's not culturally accept that people must be paid and duly and decently remunerated, it's highly improbable that you receive payment. So it's a cultural matter. And finally, it's important to create a should mixture. Yeah, it's a mixture between public money and private funding. It doesn't matter how it made. I don't want to extend more about this issue because it's for another presentation, but to create an endowment or create a mixed fund or create a strategy of public funds with fundraising and foundation, it doesn't matter, but you must have a strategy in order to compensate decently mediators that generates an incentive to enter into the profession and to be evaluated and to generate a new profession. Yeah, a new profession that is recognized and is accepted and as a role to comply or to make for the rest of the society. And here is a poet, which is Nicanor Parra. He's physics and poet, very well known in our country, and he explained very clearly what I mentioned before about the economic aspect, which is there are two loaves, you eat two, me neither, average consumption, one loaf per person. And it's true. Sometimes economy says, oh, this country has a GDP of X dollars, but in reality, it's not true. So you must understand what is the real, what is how many, if the people really eat a loaf every day, more than the numbers. So economy also must be taken in consideration, but not as the only measure to understand all these aspects. So that was my presentation. I expect to be fruitful, and well, that's I want to share with you. I know that's a little bit, I don't know if it's not easy to accept maybe some of the assumption or ideas that's expressed. So
No, I
please,
think it was,
Vikram.
look, first of all, as expected, it was going to be interesting. It was very interesting. So perfect. And this is something really, this is, okay, what you've put out, definitely it is food for thought. We will keep discussing it. We won't just, I mean, we won't leave it here. We'll take it up. We'll ask other people to give their inputs on it. Because for me, there are certain aspects which need a little more, I think, discussion on the fact that when we say that people can't pay, on the other end, in our country, a country like ours, which is of course 60% rural and everything, people are paying huge amounts to lawyers for matters where sometimes won't be able to, I don't know whether that happens in Chile, some people have to sell off their land to follow a dispute in the courts. That
Yes.
bad. So they understand that there is payment for dispute resolution, but in courts. What we have to bring together to them is, and that is also a chicken and the egg situation. If you haven't been exposed to it, you haven't tasted it, then you don't know whether this actually works. So you don't look at it as an option. But the other side, this is actually happening. I look, for me, focus, of course, villages is a focus. So yesterday I had a discussion with some teachers from a village or from a rural area in India. And I just basically was asking them that if you know people there who actually do it. And interestingly, 4 names came out. These are people who are doing actual mediation, because some teachers there were saying, oh, the mediator decides and decision and all that, because there are some rural structures where that happens. But interestingly, after I told them, no, it's not that way, these names came out. So it is actually happening, but those people are not valued. So now it's just a matter of valuing those people. So I think that is where we have to start working on, that people understand the value of it. And that will happen as we spread the message. So, but I think that what you did was really good. I think this research might not have happened earlier.
Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting what you mentioned, because yes, I think that the idea, because I have not, this is a very general, this because I'm not mentioning of any country. Most of the things that happen here, for example, in for example, the issue of the structural, we have now the problem, yeah? And the key point is, it's important that exist a finance structure, a finance scheme that allow that these people that is doing this job without receive nothing, receive money. And the aspect is to create a strategy. That's the point that I want to put in the table. Yeah, that's the issue that they must discuss, because how we make that with money of the public resources, or for the NGOs or the people, generate funds, and these funds go to people that is doing this job, and receive a payment, a decent, not a payment, not a nominal, not something that is merely for no, something that is concrete, a payment that it's enough to sustain their life. Yeah. And this is an issue that you must understand. But here is a strategy, because, and I am not talking to a specific point of view. There, I left this issue open because the strategy is different if you are in India, if you are, for example, in Birmania, or if you are in Austria, or if you are in Bulgaria. It depends. It depends of many aspects. But I believe that culture is important. This is a key point. Something that I didn't mention, but something that I believe it's more important, is that mediators must, or professionals of the ADR must become together and to associate. And how to associate? Throughout NGO, throughout guilds, and make lobby. It's important to make lobby, because if you go alone, it's impossible that you achieve something. That's an issue. I cannot include it because it's for time constraint, of course, and it's another aspect that we want to discuss in another area, but or another conversation. But it's important that you get associated, because the association and make lobby, it's how you can make pressures to achieve finally objectives. Yeah, this is one of the potential areas or potential strategies that you can use for generate an incentive of the payment of mediators.
Well, here are two things. Well, one,
I don't know what's your opinion.
Yeah. One, of course, let me tell you about this aspect of payment to these people. I was telling these teachers yesterday that, do people pay these people? Are they paid? They said, no, yes, they're paid in love and affection. I said, that's not good enough. They need to be remunerated. They have to be brought out, and they have to do it on a full-time basis. So
yes.
But in terms of lobby, I'll tell you the problem is, Patricio. Basically, the court system is where mediation is happening, and the mediators are all part of that system. Either they're litigating lawyers who are also doing this in the courts. Now, when I talk about it, because I criticize the whole aspect of the judiciary being involved in mediation in any way, I think they're two different aspects. So you heard me saying that. So now when I talk about when I criticize the judiciary, these people who are part of the court system have to stay away, because they are actually practicing in the courts. So this large chunk, this is where the chunk is. I mean, I'm talking about a country like India, and I do hear in other countries also, that the chunk lies in people who are actually part of the court system, and they're also associated with mediation in the courts. So for them to go out and say, look, the court system is actually affecting the development of the profession, which is my view. Of course, you of course have part of the system, so you'll tell me whether you can actually say that, because like you said, the various aspects in different countries and all that has to be looked at. But from my end, I feel that there is the whole thing can develop only when this aspect is taken care of. Because like I don't know, after our session on mediator experiences, I was talking to someone in a court in India, and they said, if you give peanuts, you'll get monkeys. And the person is practicing in that high court for the last 20 years. And that is the impression that person has of the mediation center and the mediation in that court. So that's the kind of feedback I get. So now what are the people taking back who are part of the mediation process, who are parties, who are involved in it? What are they going back with? Because she said that, look, the way it's practiced, that's not really mediation. They're told what to do. The lawyer is like sitting there kind of deciding for them.
Yes.
A lot of factors are happening in there, and no one can actually get into that room to find out what these people are doing. So there are issues there. I don't know what your view on that is.
No, I think that is important to understand, because of course each country has their own particularities. Each country has a particular situation they cannot express, or we cannot replicate to other countries. But as you mentioned, it's important that have a strategy, and to take decision or go to take actions that trying to tackle the problems that are affecting the development of mediation. That's the key point. It's something more important, because in India it's one aspect that you mentioned, but in Chile it's other aspect, and Argentina maybe other area. So it depends. It's very variable, But the idea is to, of course, make value, as you mentioned, to generate this profession, to regulate this profession in a manner that allow people to enter. You mentioned the teachers that are paid with the love and the respect. It's wonderful, yes, of course. But there is a song in Latin America that says we cannot pay the bills with love.
Exactly.
Something that's real. It's necessary to live. To have exactly. We cannot pay our bills with love. But what is important is, as you mentioned, a decent payment. No, not a nominal payment, not something symbolic. It's something that must be real, and that's an objective. And here is the regulation, But how we achieve it? In the United States, it's different because, as mentioned before, it's not the word, it's completely different. But we must understand that we have a strategy. And for having a strategy, we must have clearly what is the problem, to have the vision about the problem. And when we identify the problem, then we can identify the strategy and the possible solution. So that's it. I'm talking about economics aspect. Eventually we can talk about how to make lobby. For example, one thing that happened in Chile. Hello.
That's Christina. Christina, based in Cyprus. Only thing is her name is a little too long.
Hello?
Arzumanova. Christina Arzumanova.
No, full name is Christina Arzumanova, international lawyer, mediator, everything. That's a whole name.
No, but just say Christina Arzumanova.
Yes, exactly.
And
hello. You. Hello.
Christina has a very interesting his story about how she started from Georgia, Armenia, Russia, and to Cyprus. So there's a new show that I started called Mediator Lifestyle. So she was on that first episode, and she took us through her life in Cyprus and all. So that was also interesting. So she's coming again on the 29th on that In Conversation with a Beautiful Mind. So we'll find out her interesting life and everything. But Patricia, what I was thinking was that in terms of of course, look, payment, I was telling you these teachers are telling me about those people in the village who are doing it. So those are people who are, they will have some other profession, something else, so they do it on the side kind of thing. But actually, according to me, if these people are brought forward first, and then they take it up as a full-time thing, then mediation develops. According to me, then the right people are out there doing mediation. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yes, I agree with you.
Because user experience has to be the best. Only then does the profession go forward. Now, only thing is that, like I said, as part of that Vision 2026, earlier I had put up on my website, I put up a list. I'm just putting out points right now for discussion. Earlier I had put profession. That day, after I had that discussion with the person, I changed profession to way of life. I've written it there. I'm going to bring it back to profession or way of life. And let's put a question mark. Let's discuss it.
Well, but about the professional way of life is but when we select our profession, we're selecting our way of life. No, when I choose to be a lawyer, I selected the way of life that I choose. and each of one of them we do that. Yeah, so it's something that's not, it's not so separate. It's something very continuous. Yeah, when you take when you select, for example, I want, yeah.
I'll tell you why I'm saying that, because the definition of profession says a paid occupation, especially one that involves prolonged training and formal qualification. Now, my problem has been, and which is what I've been always talking about, that this is something which is a natural ability. And these people are whoever, because my reach, I'm telling you, my reach has to be much larger than the world, mediation world that we are part of or talk about. In that world, definitely first, these people have never been trained, but they're doing it very successfully. And they've got the process totally right. So if I today say that I need to train them to make them part of the profession, then I am actually taking it in the wrong direction, because I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying just they have everything going for them. They just have to be brought into the fold. So that's one. So in terms of qualification, I keep saying, look, the point is that the parties will find whom they trust. For me to limit their choice, then I'm going against the whole concept, because it is their dispute. They want to take anyone they want. Who am I to decide what is the qualification? How do I decide whom they trust? I can't qualify whom they trust. They trust. So that is why these two aspects of training and qualification I have an issue with.
Yes, yeah, but I believe that when you the training, and here is something that is quite important, is how the training and education, how is drafted, and how it's possible that you generate a professional body, or not a professional body, a large amount or enough amount of persons that it's trained to do this important role. Yeah, but also here is an issue. Sometimes people believe, oh, I believe they're very good mediators, but my character, my personality does not fit. So as I mentioned before, it's supposed I'm very good, I'm very good for this area, but my personality is not fit, or is not aligned with the objectives that mediation has. So it's something that must be realistic.
No, because I did, Patricio, where I come from is the fact that in the United Kingdom, because in the symposium I had Andrew from the UK, and he says that there are 18,000 qualified, as we call them, and certified and all, accredited, and all whatever words you want to use.
Yeah, only thing I've not the British.
Only 500 have. He says only 500 have work. So what use has that been if we haven't got the right people into the fold? If the user experience isn't good and they are not using mediation, what advantage is it to put some qualification out there which is not working? That means, look, the biggest issue is evaluating someone. Your way of going about handling a mediation or handling the process is so unique to you. For me to even comment on it, I'll be wrong. I can't even comment it, because if it works for you, it works for you. And one of the, again, in the part of the Vision 2026 is this aspect of heart, soul, and spirituality. Yes. Now, those aspects, where do you come out? In a 40-hour factories, these are not aspects which are even discussed. There is a box that is put out, and these people are told, okay, this is just a role play or whatever. No, this is so unique, and it is so unique to the actual situation. Of course, again, you'll hear me repeating this, but I keep saying there are almost 8 billion people on this planet. Each one is unique. When they have a dispute, it is unique. When the mediator comes in, that mediator is unique. This thing is never going to happen again. It is such a unique situation. In that kind of a situation, to even say that we know how we have to train you to handle that, I think we're going wrong on that part of it. I think we just need to bring out the people with the natural ability. That's the way I look at it.
Well, yes, but I believe it's interesting to hear to Christina, because, well, I'm talking so much, and I have eventually a few minutes to go to a hearing, and maybe I have to leave you. But I want to share with you. It's what I want to express is that the important aspect is to have many strategies. Yeah. I do not take, for example, the issue of lobbyists here in Chile that happened. Many people do mediation, but it's not called mediation. They are called lobbyists. it happens. But this lobby is more associated with big industries or regulated area. So it's important that mediation, it can be spread out. About your project of Mediation 2016, though it's a project that you're promoting, it's interesting that we can expand mediation to other areas where it's not formally called mediation, but we can perform an important role as a conflict solver or facilitators, which is very close resemble. I want to hear and left that Christina talk in order that to share the ideas and to express, because I'm talking so much in my point of view.
No, it's okay.
Yes, Christina, what is your comment on what we have discussed?
So as I heard from my dear colleague, I guess I agree in some point with him is, okay, we have each of person, we are unique, as we also agree. And we create our vision. As before I had conversation with Vikram, from my side, I can see 6 number. From his side, he can see 9. But this doesn't matter. It doesn't mean he is wrong or I am wrong. So I guess a mediation and vision it depends on us, on our vision as a mediators, individuals. So we create a vision in 2026, not only 2026. I guess all the time we have to create and find new visions. I guess this is my point all the time.
What has happened is basically, what has happened, Patricio, is that Christina hasn't actually heard the lecture because she came in late. Now she has to make, she wants to make a comment. But no, Patricio, okay. I tell you what, Christina, Patricio gave a very interesting lecture on the aspect of why, first of all, mediation for mediators are not paid. What are the cultural aspect, the economy of the country, a lot of factors. So that's something that you must watch. That I think he's really brought out something which now he's put, like I said, food for thought. We'll take it up. We'll take it as part of our discussions. But if anything, Patricia, anything specific you want to ask Christina, ask her something specific, then we'll hear.
Yes, because I'm so sorry, because I just I catch some words and some meaning at the end. That's why I can continue with this.
No problem. Oh, Christina, there's no problem at all, because the idea is to share experience. And yes, I'm talking so much, but it's important. Yes, you have difference. And as Vikram mentioned, the mediator, the intervention of the mediator in the resolution, it's paramount, because for example, if you intervene one mediation, myself or you or Vikram, the results, maybe we can achieve an agreement, but the final terms of the agreement may have a slight variation, because personality, it's an influence. For example, the culture of an influence, how you're present is an influence. So yes, because it's very, it's important. It's something that is related with the interaction of the personalities. So our personality is part of ourself, how it has an impact, and also our languages. For example, I don't know how is your native language. I assume it must be Georgian.
No. My native is Armenian, Georgian, Russian, now become English, and now I'm studying fluently Greek. So
that's important. But you have it's interesting, because there is some theory that says that there is a correlation between language and how we see the word, and how, for example, some terms. For example, there are terms that are non-translatable from from Russian, for example, or from English, or for Spanish. They're impossible to translate. So that generates this setting, the frame, how mediation is performed. And yes, sometimes there in mediation, Harvey Peña talked a lot of this about the issue of about the narrative and narration. It's made in a language. And its language is very different. For example, when we talk in English, when I talk in English, it's far more precise, my expression, when I speak in Spanish, because Spanish, it's a lot of words, a lot of synonyms, and English is very linear. It's like a German and, for example, Russian, which is a very precise language. It's different. So there's an influence in there. There is an influence. So we must understand that the cultural background and the words becoming every day more multicultural. So yes, it's quite important how we perceive reality and how we perceive the fact that we see in mediation. It's related, like Vikram says, it depends, because even the same mediator mediating 2 different days, if you have a problem, it's not the same how you mediate where you are very happy. It's not the same. You may change.
I totally agree, because this is like a term, polylinguistic mediation. This all we can, because we are bipolar in society all the time, and this polylinguistic term we are using all the time. So I totally agree. I agree.
Yes.
Patricia, what you want to leave in the next 7 minutes? Is that what the situation
is? Yes, I have to leave it. Yes.
But
yes, I have to leave it. But yes, but I want to give the thanks. Of course, it's a pleasure to talk with Christina. I will love to do a presentation. So if you you may obtain my email with Vikram. So if you're interested to further collaboration, or if you make a presentation both together, the next time for an invitation, we can work together, and we'll be very happy. Because this is one of the wonderful things that internet allow us to interact with people from all over the world. So
yes, I agree.
And what I need you people to do is, you should go to mediatorvikram.com. Patricio's link to his LinkedIn profile is there. Christina's link to her LinkedIn profile is there. You people should be finding these things there. You will not even go to that website. But what I need to do, Patricio, is to go through what all is happening in January. I want to take you through the slides of that, if you have 2 minutes for that.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yes, yes. Perfect. I will send. I promise to send. Please, Christina, you can. I will left. Okay.
Okay. So I just basically, I always put this out because of the symposium was a huge thing. So I need to put this out, and this poster designed by Rafael from Mexico. I really liked it. Let's just make it a cult thing. So that's how it is. Then this is what that Vision 2026 is. So there is some pointers that I put down on my website, but like I keep saying, it's a work in progress. We'll keep having these discussions, keep refining it. I'm not trying to elaborate those points right now, because then it'll become a little limited as to what I am saying. So but this discussion has to happen. So you also have to be, Patricio, part of that, one of those sessions of mediation visionaries. So you have to give your vision for Vision 2026.
Yes.
This is the one that Christina came for, that mediator lifestyle. Basically, what the show is about, mediators giving us a glimpse to their lifestyle. So she was actually supposed to take us to a beach in Paphos, in Cyprus, where she is. But that day, for some technical reason, she couldn't do it. So she did it from her garden. But very interesting. You must watch it. Her orange tree and her paintings and all that. You must watch that.
I'm very brave. 2 of January. 2 of January. Very brave. Hard working and brave. Really.
Too much.
Okay.
Very brave.
Gabriela is a very interesting person. She came on Mediator Experiences also. She's also a JAMS fellow. She came on that. Very interesting conversation. Again, this one. So this is was not good enough. So we have doing part 2 of this on the 14th. Orith was from Israel. Again, interesting person. We had a very nice conversation on this. So this is what that inspiration behind the lecture series is. And this is what you need to do, Patricio, is to inspire people who are not in the mediation world. They might never be able to attend a lecture on mediation, but let's bring them into the fold. So this is what the series is about. And what you've done is a very interesting part, put a basic thought process right in the beginning as to what the situation with mediators and remuneration is. That's important. So this person, I don't know whether you recognize or not. Okay, this is part 2 of Gabriela. So this is on Saturday.
Our benefactor.
Yes, it should be interesting. Then we have another lecture. She's from South Africa. She was not well. Yes. She got COVID. She was supposed to come in earlier, but she had COVID. So now she's just recovering. So hopefully it won't happen on the 11th. I mean, of course, it did not happen on the 11th. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. So these people, both of them had given a lecture earlier. We've had 2 sessions earlier. This is coming up. And again, Michael Lang, of course, a senior person, a very wonderful person. Sofnath has a lot of wide experience. So much watch this. This is that visionary series that I have, Mediation Visionaries. So Lisa gives her vision on that. Then we have Bernie Mayer. Again, this is part 2 of it. Part 1, we were still talking about up till where his mother was growing up. Now, haven't even reached him yet. He's not in the world up till now. So that's how slowly I take this. I take it through either experiences and everything. This is discussing these books with Ken. He's just written these 2 books. There is on my website also, there's a link on my post also. You get a 25% discount. I think it's called Good Media, whatever, that website. So you get, use the code Vikram and you get a discount of 25%. And then Christina comes in on the 29th. And
Christina, is your Weinstein fellow?
No.
Not yet.
No.
Not yet.
This happens on the last day of every month. Celebrate the birthdays of mediators in that month. So that's what I had to take you through, Patricio. So you know that I do various things in the month.
Oh, of course, very busy. Well, I will say thank you again. I have to leave you. Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Vikram. Of course, please, Christina, send me an email. I will say, please, or we can contact throughout LinkedIn. There's no problem. And of course, Vikram, in February, I will start to work something to prepare something interesting about this vision. And of course, I'll be back when Daniel Weinstein give the lecture, because it's a pleasure to hear our so loved benefactor.
Perfect.
At least for the GEMS community.
So thank you very much, Patricio. Very nice of you coming in. And I'm really, now with your lecture today, I've understood that you've done a lot of research, and I'm expecting on the Vision 2026 also very nice and elaborate thing. So we'll fix up that. I'll fix up that with you separately. And Christina wants to say thank you to you. Please, Christina.
Thank you very much, because it was interesting. Okay, get this. I miss it a lot. I guess your conversation. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry. It was really interesting, because I think that we can do something about the language and mediation and narrative, and we can
incorporate. Very interesting, because I'm a polylinguist, so we can try this and use it in mediation. So this is
and we can invitate Harvey Peña. It's a lot of narrative mediation. It would be very interesting.
Yes, of course. So
maybe I'll tell you what, Patricia, what we can do is we can have a lecture by Harvey on narrative mediation, and then maybe these discussions can happen. Let me talk to him. Maybe in February we can do that. So that also should be interesting. Perfect. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Right.
Great.
So, thank you very much, Vikram. Thank you very much, and Patricio. It's nice to meet you. So we can collaborate together and do all the good things.
Yeah, he's a wonderful person, Patricio. You must